Okay, there's your sound.
We have an echo.
We do?
Yeah. What's picking you up? Hi, everybody. This is going to be a complete technical disaster because we want to do it here instead of everywhere. So when you talk, somehow I was getting an echo.
Well, I mean, I'm
Wait a second. Audio. Only thing that's live is the main camera. So this is going to be something like this. We have a lot going on here that's different than usual. So we have, we've basically switched out our entire live streaming infrastructure and stream and setup. And so we have a bunch of things that we need to kind of coordinate here. And so this session is really just that. If you're expecting a regular sound for video session, this is not it. Don't want to waste your time. So you're dismissed if that's not what you want to do. Otherwise, you're welcome to hang around. What I'm curious about, if you guys have any input, is how is the sound on your side? What I struggled with over the last several weeks is clipping, and we were using Ecamm Live. I talked to the Ecamm Live people. Actually, I talked to both of the founders, and who are still the active developers. They do a lot of the work, and they were saying that Ecamm does not add any volume it doesn't add anything. If you have the little fader, which goes from 0 to 100, set at 100, it should add no volume and take away no volume. And so that was really frustrating to me because I did it. They actually asked me to do a test. And what I did is I streamed directly to YouTube. And I also streamed to YouTube via Ecamm. Every other setting the exact same. Everything coming out of the switcher, exactly the same. And it was 9 dB louder when it was streamed to YouTube via Ecamm. And also, Ecamm makes a local recording on your computer. That one was also 9 dB louder. So it is evidently something Ecamm's doing, but they don't know what it is. So that's one of the reasons that I'm kind of frustrated with Ecamm and kind of looking for other solutions. But in any case, that's what we're doing. So today, we've got a bunch of things that I wanted to set up because we're trying to do yes, you can see my engineer here today because we have a bunch of things that are kind of whacked out right now that are not complete in terms of the setup. So I'm going to set up a wireless camera that I can walk around with to be able to show. And then I'm going to have to also set up a wireless audio feed. So I'm probably going to need, we've got to work on that as well, which we had hoped to have all this ready before now, but we didn't because we were fighting with the encoder. So we're using a hardware encoder now that comes directly out of the switcher and streams via Ethernet directly to YouTube. It's one made by Tascam. It's called the VSR 265, and it was having trouble. I couldn't connect to the YouTube channel. We could get it connected to my main channel, and we actually streamed 45 seconds of nothing accidentally to that. But this, it would, until we went to the generic RTMP and manually set it up another way. So have I looked into OBS Ninja? I have looked into OBS. I'm on a Mac. This is a Mac shop, all Apple shop. So OBS on Mac was a little bit rough 2 years ago when I looked at it, and I haven't looked back. I'm really kind of looking to get into more of a hardware encoder setup. I would rather not rely on the computer to do the encoding if I can avoid it. So that's the main reason I haven't looked back to OBS.
Running a little low on sound.
Okay, so sound is good. That's because this is not adding any additional volume. So we can actually gain up. Give me just a second here. So we're going to select.
Also, if you
All right. What?
You have another channel open on here?
No, that's just for the phone because I switched just to stereo.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, how are my levels now if you look on the meter there? Are we doing okay still?
On this meter?
Yep.
Good.
Okay, so yeah, definitely not nearly as hot as before, but I think I'm seeing peaks. If any of you have a dB full scale meter on your computer that you can look at, I'm seeing peaks around -9, -10 right now. I'm wondering if that's what you're seeing as well out there. It's like watching behind the scenes at the same time as the main video feed. Yes. Okay. So we've got some headroom. So that's actually good. I wanted some headroom. In any case, Master Judd looking for a hardware solution. Unheard of. Haha. Actually, it's not unheard of. They're just expensive. And I think the Tascam will be fine. We just need to learn it. This is the first time we've actually used it to actually stream publicly. And so, all right. So what I'm curious about too is this is a 4K stream. I'm wondering if any of you that are using Chrome, you will not be able to, well, actually Safari might actually be able to see it now too. If you're on Big Sur, latest OS, and the latest version of Safari, I've heard that you can actually stream in 4K now on YouTube. So I mean, you can view videos in 4K on YouTube. So I'm curious if any of you are seeing that on your end. Are you able to see some 4K? Does it look sharp? Any feedback on that front? We just want to make sure that that's coming through okay. Okay, Thomas says, I'm watching your meters get pretty high, but not clipping on my end. Okay. I'm still seeing kind of the very max of -7 is what we just hit just a moment ago. So that's what I'm looking at on this end. Yep, says 4K. Thank you, Andre. All right, so that's good. So let me just, let's work on the next thing. So we're going to set up a key. We do have the chat that's in progress. We haven't set up the key for that yet, but we have a laptop here that'll do that. I'm going to set up a wireless camera so that I can do tomorrow on the live sound for video session. The idea is to do the full behind the scenes and walk around with the camera. So I've got to set the wireless camera up. So I think we're going to use the Panasonic GH5. And let's switch out the lenses. So the other one has stabilization built into it. And if you would put that lens on here, line up the red dots. Okay, so you can see here, GH5, we have the Hollyland Mars 400S Pro for our wireless. Here's the problem. This is funny. This is an HD transmitter. So we're downsampling to 1080p, transmitting, and then it's going to upscale again to HD once we get to one of the converters. We have these cross converters and scalers. Don't know if you guys have ever seen these before. Got an HDMI input and an SDI input, and then you have an HDMI output and 4 SDI outputs. So the switcher that we're going into is all SDI inputs. Actually, there's one HDMI input and all the rest are SDI. So what we're going to do is, okay, we're done with that camera. We're going to put the camera on the switch pod without hopefully dropping anything.
Please don't.
I'm seeing 4K on an iPad using the YouTube app. Very good, Chuck. Thank you for that. Good to know. Okay, so we have our camera on the switch pod facing the wrong way. We don't need to look at me. We need to look at what's in front of us. Could you tighten that knob now?
This one?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that should do it.
Cool.
All right. That's a step. That's good. And then if you could go get in the battery bin and get a Sony NPF style battery, that's the kind that fits in this sled.
Okay.
It'll be pretty thick,
Ooh.
pretty big one.
Jordan squeak, I'm sorry.
Oh, her fancy new Air Jordans are squeaking on the floor. Very good. Robert says, I see 4K on a Firefox on a PC. All right. I'm on a Retina 16-inch MacBook Pro, so not a 4K display. Going full screen looks good, but not super sharp like a conventional 4K video, but it may be better than typical 1080p streaming. Interesting. Thank you, Thomas.
NPF what?
I think it's an NPF 975.
Not 750?
Or, let's see. That'll do.
Okay.
I'll take an NPF 750. Today, that's good enough. That's good enough for a technical disaster live stream that we're doing right now.
Hey, we made some serious strides.
Yeah, we have. We have made progress. Okay, so let's power this guy up and power the transmitter up. I wonder if that's going to interfere with anything. All right, then we have our receiver and we have power. We're going to use AC power for the receiver. The question is, where do we want to put the receiver so it's not in our way and it will receive the signal unobstructed. I think we're going to mute that. Always mute stuff that you're not using.
Yeah. I figured that out the hard way.
Put this on top of the battery box and then plug it into the power strip that's behind there.
Okay.
Okay, and actually here's the Velcro that goes. I'm just going to attach the Velcro. We always keep the Velcro attached to the cable so we can find it when we're done. And then I will get this set up for you.
Okay.
We're going to bring this into input number 2, I believe. Okay, give me just a second. We'll be back. It's kind of fun. It's not that bad. It's kind of fun on the side. This is what it really looks like. This is what it really, really looks like. So let me give you a little background before I go set this up while Emma's getting that set up. So there's a story and there's a reason why we're doing this. So for course development, when I'm creating a new course, one of the things that I've wanted to do is produce it in 4K. And I wanted to also cut down on the post editing time in as much as possible. So having a switcher, and by the way, the sound is horrible today, I realize, because we've got our closet open. You'll see that as soon as I get this wireless camera set up and running. Why is that no video? The closet's open. They make a racket. They're actually not going to go in this closet long term, but we'll talk about that more tomorrow on the live stream. But the main idea is to be able to switch in real time while I'm recording the new course segments, and that will make it so I can produce the courses more quickly. Okay, so we have video here. The transmitter is saying no video, but let's just pull that out and push it back in. Okay. And I just pulled this off of here. That's interesting. So the transmitter is still saying no video. Why? So we're going to get into the menu here of the Mars 400S Pro. Don't change channels. I don't want to change channels. What does that receiver say in terms of channel?
It says nothing. Is this on?
Oh, you got to turn it on.
There's the on.
There's an on button on the back. You press it in. You have to press it in with your fingernail to get it in far enough. Is the power strip on?
No. That's the problem.
There's the problem.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, this is Chuck B. I really like the off-the-cuff format for the stream with hands-on problem solving. This is what it looks like.
That's actually good for people.
Nothing is releasing any smoke. No one is screaming at anyone. There isn't a spaghetti bowl of cables visible. Yeah,
Okay,
there is a spaghetti bowl of
bowl.
cables, but it's not visible, so that's good. So you've got a ways to go to get to full disaster level. Fair enough. I'll take that.
This is channel 3.
Okay, so this is channel 3 as well, but it's saying no video.
This
So
one says no video too.
I bet you it's because the camera is in 4K. Yeah, it's 4K. We gotta send HD. So let's go to full HD, 10-bit, 30p. See if that helps. Oh, and I think what I need to do is also go into the HDMI menu. HDMI rec output. Down convert to 1080p. Oh, now got it. You picked it right up. Okay. So that's a step. All right, now what we want to do is connect that HDMI. No. We can actually use SDI. Except I think it's going to expect HDMI in. So yeah, let's use the HDMI in. So this connects to the back of the receiver.
Okay.
And then this gets plugged into the same power strip. And then I'm going to find the cable for this.
You're going to find the key.
Yeah, I've got to go dig in the closet into
Oh.
the spaghetti bowl over here and pull that out. For those that have just joined, this is totally informal. This is pure problem solving. We're trying to figure out how to get all this stuff set up. So thanks for joining. You don't have to stay. It's not, I mean, obviously you don't have to stay, but this is not a typical type of stream that we do on this channel. This is not a sound for video session. This is a live troubleshooting session and getting things set up for a live stream for tomorrow where we'll do a behind the scenes of the overall live stream setup. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you got nothing else going, hang out with us. And I'm going to have to walk off camera a little bit here to kind of do things, but we're getting things set up and hopefully we can make some progress here. So I've got to go get one Klaus. Klaus asks, how much is the range on the Mars 400? I'm trying to remember what they said. I don't remember. I think they say 100 meters unobstructed. So if you don't have a lot of barriers between it, it's a 5 gigahertz transmission system. So it doesn't go through. It did actually okay. It went through a couple of doors. We got through a couple of doors okay, which surprised me. But in any case, okay, I'm going to come over there and get that cable. You can come talk to the people.
I don't have anything intelligent to say to the people.
I'll switch in and you talk. Tell them about mixing.
I know very little about mixing, full disclosure. We should, speaking of spaghetti bowls of cables, we should do a live troubleshooting session of decluttering the back of your desk.
No.
Yes.
Nobody needs to see that.
But it could be useful. I don't know.
It's a disaster.
What's in the chat? Hi, Rob. Rob's here.
Oh, hi, Rob.
Jason says aloha.
Oh, aloha. Mahalo.
Funny thing, 4 years ago today we were in Hawaii. That was a long lifetime ago. Yeah.
Tell them what you were doing in Hawaii.
We went to Hawaii for a high school band trip. We played at Pearl Harbor. That was pretty cool.
Okay, we're going to put this on 4. But first I need to get the cable out.
4 of what?
I think it's going to be camera 5 on the switcher. But we'll put it on preview and you'll be able to figure it out.
Okay. The engineer's viewpoint on this situation. This is a work in progress to make my job easier. So in the end, there's a monitor over here. This is like an auxiliary screen somewhat. Right now we have the program, stream. Oh, we just got a camera 4.
Camera 4?
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
the wireless.
Awesome.
So we have the program, the preview, and then all of our subsequent cameras. So I can, when I'm sitting over there, I can look at this and it makes it much easier. Do we ski? We don't ski.
A little bit. Not very often.
No.
We're too busy doing sound for video sessions.
We definitely don't alpine ski.
I do, or have.
I don't. I make it a point of pride to live in a place where skiing happens and not ski. I'm interested in marching band, so I march, and as soon as I can get my hands on a pair, I will be roller skating. That's not yet, though.
Cool. Okay. I'm turning on the stabilization.
Is the C200 being used as the main camera? Yes, the C200 is this.
Correct.
Yes. Is it OBS? It is not. This is a direct stream.
Okay. 12. Okay, let's try to switch to this.
Okay.
Okay, the audio will still be, okay, so what you do is in the preview area, switch on camera 4, and then tap on auto.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the audio is still on you.
Okay.
And I think we're overexposed, maybe.
Yeah. So now in the program, you can see the monitor that I was talking about earlier.
Oh, yes. Okay, so
There's the mixing board.
and the mixing board is, we're feeding digital AES out of the mixing board into the Canon C200. One of the wonderful things about the C200 is that the XLR inputs can be switched to digital AES audio input. What that means is that the mixing board is converting the audio to digital and sending a digital copy over to the camera. So the camera doesn't do any amplification of any sort in any way. It just takes the digital stream, combines it with picture, and sends that out via HDMI. So really pretty slick kind of change for us.
Do you want me to say things about this?
Yeah, what's this?
Well, here we have...
No,
Where's my
look
hand?
at your program over there.
There we go.
What I'm looking at.
Okay, we're over here.
Yes.
This is what will be the chat key. It's not keyed right now, but this is the pop out that we take from YouTube. And that's how we're able to put your comments on the screen. Yeah. And then we're getting closer to the spaghetti cables, but you're not going to get to see those, unfortunately. Okay, here's the actual switcher itself. So on the bottom there, you might want to point to it. If you can, yeah. There's the switcher. That's the ATEM Production Studio 4K. And then I don't know what that is. That's the HyperDeck.
That's the HyperDeck. So the HyperDeck, what we use that for. So Rob, when you submitted a video like a couple months ago, we actually put that video on an SSD drive, put it into the HyperDeck, and then when it was time to play it back, we just played that from the HyperDeck. So that's what that does. Now that'll also be the recorder when I'm creating the new courses. Everything that comes out of the switcher can be recorded by the HyperDeck onto SSD, and then yeah, that's that. This,
We're out of focus. There we go. So this is the Tascam hardware encoder that we were just talking about. Also a 4K device. And that's on top of our printer.
so the let's see, I don't know if that's in focus anymore. So the encoder, the hardware encoder, takes the program output from the switcher and then puts that into a format, H.264, streams that over to YouTube, and that's what you're seeing right now. So, of course, there are a couple of Ethernet switches in there as well. There's a bunch of chaos off to the left. That this is just temporary once we dial this in. So what's going to happen is I have on order a big kind of flight case with big rubber casters, and this whole thing is going to go into a new case outside of this room. It's just in the summertime it'll be too hot in this closet, and it just makes too much noise, and you're actually hearing a bunch of that noise right now. So once we get into when I'm getting into making new courses, all that sound and noise will be out in the other room as opposed to in here. So that'll help with sound a lot. And then, of course, during the live streams, that'll help too. Okay. Let's tour the rest of the room here.
Are we just like spoiling tomorrow's live stream? Is this a trailer spoiler?
This is the insider's version.
If you're a lucky viewer right now, good for you.
Let's see. So, got a bunch of the sound panels here, the broadband traps.
Bass traps. More bass traps.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a light. Well, we'll
there's a Lupo light.
We'll save that for the stream tomorrow.
Well, I just spoiled it.
All right.
There's the SQ5. That is our audio output.
Yep. So right now, I don't know if anyone can hear me, but basically we just have this one mic on it for right now, but this will also make it easier. So you'll remember when we did, even just last week, we were doing a, let me just come back here. We were doing a little test where we had the SR314 plus we had the new Earthworks icon, and the process of switching over, because we were using a software switcher or software mixer on the computer, the process of switching over was kind of bulky and or kind of awkward and weird. Obviously, with a mixer like this, that process becomes a lot easier. So that's the idea here. And there's a lot of question, I think, in my mind, I don't know about for you, but where that's going to go. It's not probably going to always be here. This is an awkward position for it, really.
Oh, well, yeah. Because then I
So-
can't monitor from it.
Yeah, you can go ahead and switch back to the main cam here.
Okay. There we go.
Okay. Trade your seats.
Yeah. We need to not.
I know.
Leave those
I
on
know.
the floor.
I know.
Chuck asked, how does this video switching setup compare to the A10 Mini or Mini Pro?
So the main thing that's different, well, there are a few things that are different. First of all, it's 4K, so it can stream 4K like we're doing right now. That's probably the big difference. Another big difference is it's a ton more expensive. This is the kind of thing that you would typically use for big live events, or, I mean, even a TV station could use this for a news program. It has something like, I've lost track, but I think it's 20 inputs, one of which is HDMI and the rest which of which are SDI. So that's another thing. You're going to see a lot more professional connections like SDI as opposed to HDMI. HDMI is neat and affordable, and lots of devices use it. Lots of consumer devices use it. But typically professional devices are going to use SDI. And a few reasons for that. Number one, it's locking. And number two, you can run cables much longer distance with SDI. With HDMI, once you get past about 15 or 20 feet, things start getting a little dodgy depending on, what things you're using with it. So that's another thing. So we had to have something like this if we wanted to put the switcher in the other room, but of course we wouldn't. The ATEM you could just put in the same room. It doesn't make any noise. It has a fan in it, but I never heard the fan when we were streaming.
No.
The only time I ever heard the fan was when I did the firmware update. And when you do that, the fan just comes on full blast for a couple seconds, and then once you're done with the firmware update, it just turns back off and you never hear it again. So they did a really nice job. So what else can it do? It has also something called, it has more mix effects. So that's what ME stands for. You'll see that on a lot of the production or the bigger production switchers. ME refers to mix effects, and that allows you to do more keys and things of that nature. So for example, I wonder if we, where is our camera here? Okay, so let's put this camera, no, let's not put it there. Let's put it, it's going to look at our screen for a minute. Okay, that's fine. Now, if that's camera 4. Yeah, camera 4. And I've got a key. So that allows me to put that on screen, and you can see I did a little picture-in-picture there. I just did that on the fly because I've got that keyed out and ready to go. So that's one thing we can do. We'll be able to put the chat overlays on. We don't have that set up just yet, but we will be able to put the chat overlays on. So anything you say in the chat, if we want to bring it into the actual stream, we can do that as a lower third. You've seen that if you've been on any of our streams before. We can also take that off air, by the way. I can take that picture-in-picture right off air. We have also, it has something called Super Source. A lot of times you've seen probably on the news, they bring in correspondents from various offices, and they each have their own, they're each in their own little box. You can do things like that using the Super Source feature. So just a lot of things like that. You just have more power. You can also use, I don't know if you can with the ATEM minis, but you can use their Blackmagic Designs dedicated mix effect control panels as well. So those aren't cheap. They're like $3,000, but they give you all the physical controls that you see here on the screen. For example, you have an actual T-bar, and you could do can switch back and forth like that with physical controls. So there's that as well. And that might actually work with the A10 Mini. I'm not positive on that. Never looked into that, actually. That's an interesting question. But anyway, so those are some of the differences. I think the biggest thing is going to be 4K. It's also rack mount. It also makes a ton of noise. So it's for a different class. Oh yeah, we want to take that key back off. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Click on key 1. That way it will not come on when you make the next transition. So it's also a more traditional mixer. You have full program views. You can actually have two different multi-view monitors. So it actually has separate outputs for each one. And you need to do that because actually if you switch back to this camera here. Yeah, go ahead. So on a multi-view here, I don't know if we can see that very well. It's kind of dark. Let's go. Oh, because we're stopped way down. Now we're stopped up too high. Okay. So here, for example, we get 8 preview, or you can see 8 camera sources down here at the bottom, and then a preview, and then program. With the second one, you can put on the rest of the other cameras. So all the other cameras you see down here, you can put that on. You have some customization capabilities as well. So it's probably for bigger productions, but this will be an opportunity to kind of make some of the courses a little richer in terms of having multiple cameras. You can go ahead and switch back to main cam. All right. Put that down. That wireless works okay. I'm curious, the wireless probably looks a lot softer is my guess, if you guys in the chat notice that. But because you're doing this funky thing where you're taking a 4K image, downsampling it to HD, transmitting it wirelessly, then that receiver is sending it out to a scaler who scales it back up to 4K. So I don't even know what a 4K wireless transmission system. I don't even know if there's such a thing yet. And well, I'm sure there is, but it's probably ridiculously expensive. So, all right. So that's that. What else have we got here? Osprey Media asks about the audio to the C200. Is that Dante? No, it's actually a different thing. It's actually using a traditional XLR microphone cable to send a digital signal from the mixer to the Canon. So it's not Dante. It is a different thing altogether. So you are limited by the, and I don't know how far you can send AES signals in terms of cable run length. I assume that it would be the same as for typical analog audio, but I don't know that for sure. In this case, it's a 25-foot cable, I think, and we're not using it all. I mean, we could get away with a 10-foot or maybe a 12-foot cable here, but in any case, it is AES digital instead of Dante. All right. Since you are currently using the C200, I presume you are still waiting for your C70. Actually, let's do that. Let me grab that. It turns out that the C70 is now here. It did arrive. And tomorrow's video that'll go up on the channel was actually shot using this. I'm really happy with it so far. What do you think? You operated.
Yeah, I got to relearn from Blackmagic, but it's quite nice.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you said you wanted that out the way before we started this.
Well, I needed room. That's all.
It's just fun.
Yeah, it's been really good so far. The picture coming out of it is great. It will take a little getting used to. It's a little bit different in terms of controls. Going like from Blackmagic to Canon and to be honest, the C200, I mostly have it set up for just the live streams, and so we use it every once in a while, but not very often for other things. Because, well, in any case,
it has to do with the spaghetti bowl.
Yeah, it has to do with the spaghetti bowl. That's basically up against a wall, and there's no more room to really get back there. So in any case, C70 so far so good. I've been really happy with it. We haven't run audio into it yet, so we haven't done any of those tests yet. Just haven't had time because we're trying to get the live stream thing sorted out first and up and running, like tonight. So, Greg, thanks for that. So Greg says there is a Bolt 4K from Teradek. So I can't imagine how much that costs. I'm gonna guess 3,000. That's my guess. I have no idea though. If you have any questions about the C70, let me know. I did have kind of one funny thing. I had two V60 cards, so the little SD cards rated for V60. I put them both in here. I've been running them in my Canon C200 for a while now, and the C70 couldn't write to one of them. It said there was a buffer overflow. So that was kind of interesting because it said it needed a V60 card. So I think I ordered two V90 cards for this. Of course, every time you go up like that, they get more expensive. And yeah, these are V90 cards. I haven't had any problems with these, but the V60 cards, even though it says they should work, they were Lexar cards. One of them worked fine and the other one did not. So that was kind of interesting. I love that there's an ND filter on this. I prefer internal ND filters whenever we can use those. That makes things a lot easier. So, in terms of lenses on the C70, this is the 24 to 70, RF 24 to 70, 2.8L. It's a chunk of glass and plastic and metal. We haven't put the stabilizer to test much or at all yet, really. So, in any case, that's the C70 so far. We'll probably hear more about that. Especially, we'll probably talk about it once we test the audio inputs. They're mini XLR TA3F inputs on the side here. Don't know if you can see that, but two of them underneath these little covers here. So that makes it a little less convenient because you can't go straight in with a regular XLR cable, but it's a much smaller camera body, which I really appreciate from the standpoint that, oh my goodness.
Wait.
Okay, I'll come back to that. All right. I'll come back to that. But what we were really looking for is I almost always do dual system sound anyway, so we're almost always using the 888 to record the sound, and then we shoot picture independent of that and then sync and post. So that'll I think continue to work well for us. I don't foresee running audio to camera for at least for the YouTube videos. I don't really see that coming in. I like that you can break it down a little bit here too, so you can pop the top handle off. It's a little bit smaller. And you can see it takes a while to get the handle off. It is pretty chunky. It's a little bit bigger than I kind of expected. So it's definitely bigger than, typical DSLRs, but it does have the nice handle on there that makes it pretty easy if you are doing handheld shots. The peaking I need to dial in. It's very faint. Like, it's really hard to see the peaking. So I haven't done I don't do a lot of manual focus anyway, and that's actually going to be more on the B-roll. When I shot the B-roll, that's where it's going to be more important, I think. Battery life is pretty good. I still haven't had to charge, and we're at halfway. So we shot an entire YouTube episode, a bunch of test shots, the YouTube episode, all the B-roll on the C70. And so that was probably about half an hour for the main storyline. When we did the shots of you, that was probably 20 minutes.
That was actually, all of that stuff was like 30 minutes max.
Both of those combined? Well, the main storyline came out 20 minutes, and I had to cut it down. So 30 minutes max, okay, for all that. Then the B-roll probably took an hour and a half. So we're about 2 hours, and we're about halfway on the battery. That's cool. So, all right. Greg Palmer confirms pricing on the Teradek 4K is $2,500 US. Whew. And then if you want the long-range Teradek 4K Bolt, $11,000. Sorry. I hope we didn't clip there. We might have. Do we have a compressor turned on, by the way, on that?
Your face is
Go to channel 1. Compressor's in. Yeah, we do have the compressor on. Okay. So that should help us a little bit. All right. So did you buy a native RF lens for it? Yes, I did. I did buy a native RF lens for it. I do have a couple of EF lenses. The Canon C200 has the 24 to 105 f4, and then the Blackmagic 4K, which, can you see that in the background? I guess you can't see that from here. It's in the corner. Actually, we can put it on the wireless cam. Let's do that. Oh, we lost signal, but give me a second here. No battery power remains. We got to switch our batteries. I'll walk over there.
okay.
Got to charge that. Okay, coming online. And
There it
there you
is.
go. Okay.
This is the Blackmagic Pocket 4K,
6K.
6K. We got rid of the 4K.
We didn't get rid of it. We gave it away.
It doesn't live here anymore.
Moved to a new home. But that lens on the Pocket 6K is a Sigma 24 to 70 f 2.8. We can switch back to the main cam here.
Okay.
There we are. Okay. Sorry for making you probably a little bit dizzy there. But yeah, the Pocket 6K has been a good one. We've used that for the YouTube channel, the main YouTube channel, quite a bit. And I don't know. What do you think of it?
That's the one I'm probably most familiar with.
Yeah, most familiar with it.
It is user-friendly.
Yeah, really easy to use. The picture that comes out of it's really good. We have it set up with a matte box, and so the nice thing about that is, and I need to do something like that for this, to be honest. When you start shooting 4K, I feel like the picture gets really detailed, which is good. It's kind of what you want with 4K, but the thing that I don't like about it is that it tends to be a little bit harsh, especially on faces. Like, it shows everything. And I really feel like it looks better usually if you add a little bit of diffusion. I hate to say this term, but it does feel a little bit more cinematic. It does kind of have a nicer look to it, kind of a dreamier look to it. She's just laughing at me. Whatever.
You're a nerd.
I'm a nerd. I'm a camera
We're all
nerd.
nerds here.
Yeah, that's
This is
true.
a nerd-friendly environment. Yeah.
Okay. Which matte box is that? That is the Tilta. It's the big one from Tilta. I don't remember the exact model number, but it's the bigger one. It's carbon fiber. And
There's also a follow focus in there.
it's a big, yeah, that's the big guy. There's a follow focus too. We don't have it on right now, but it is the Tilta Nucleus.
Something.
Yeah, it's the Tilta Nucleus. I got it right here.
And then you have those little sparkly filters in there.
Yeah, I'm not going to pull that out right now, but we're using Schneider. What are the filters called? They're diffusion filters. They're called, I don't remember the name. Radiant Soft. They're called Radiant Soft. They come in different strengths. Emma likes to refer to them as the sparkly filters.
They're pretty.
They're pretty.
Nice to look at.
Well, and what they do to the picture is really nice too. Again, they give it a creamier feel. So it works pretty nicely for talking heads. So when I'm doing some client work, that's usually appreciated. A lot of people that find themselves on camera are not as enthused about 4K, 8K, and 12K as the people that are operating the cameras. So I find that once you move up to 4K from HD, it really probably is best to have some diffusion options available to you. Daniel is using Bright Tangerine accessories on his video camera. Yeah, I've heard they've got some good stuff too. So Baron says, just got here, so sorry if this is repeat info, but what capture card or device is being used to stream in 4K? We are using an ATEM 2ME Production Studio 4K for our switcher, and then that is feeding the program output to a Tascam. What's the model on that? VSR?
265.
Yeah, VSR 265, which is a hardware encoder. And that's streaming directly to YouTube from here. So that's what we're using. We're going to do a full behind the scenes tomorrow when hopefully things are a little bit more settled too. So that's what that is. Okay. Oh, we do have some other little things here that I think are cool. Let's go back to audio since that's really kind of my focus. This is a mess. So which one is mine?
That one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna disconnect some things here so I can show you something. This is bad.
This is why we're doing this now, not tomorrow. There we go.
Okay, so you want to unplug for just a second there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can bring this up on camera. I don't know if I have enough cable. No, I'm not going to have enough cable.
It's a box.
There's a little... Oh, I've got a wireless camera. Yo! I keep forgetting. This is what this is made for. Okay. All right, so what you're seeing here, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can focus that. This is the Little Labs monitor, and it has two balanced inputs on the back. Those are coming off of the ATEM switcher. And then this is just a very fancy, very high quality headphone amplifier. We've got two outputs on it, so Emma monitors on one of them. If I'm doing a demo, like last week we were doing a demo of DaVinci Resolve, and I was able to monitor on this as well. So that's going to capture all of the audio. That's the program audio coming out of the switcher, basically. So this is our last line of monitoring in the signal chain before everything goes to the encoder. And so that's pretty cool. That's been working pretty nicely for us so far. All right, we'll go ahead and switch back here. All right. So that's another little device that was added here. That's one of the frustrations that we've had with all of the software encoders, is that monitoring from the computer was a little bit problematic. There are probably ways to do it. Probably OBS supports it. And, or you could use other apps on the computer itself to reroute the audio. But this is a little bit more direct. There's not as much latency. You can still hear some latency, right? Hardly. Yeah. So it's not nearly as bad. And we're just kind of bypassing a lot of that stuff. So that's been working pretty well for us so far too. We've had that for a couple weeks now. All right, do we have some... Oh, we have a super chat from Alex. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. All right. Let's see here. Thomas says, if anyone is interested, Format High-Tech Filters has a big sale on their filters for the next hour or so, half hour if they are in the Eastern time zone. Beautiful, thanks. Just let me know what I can do. Okay, Roland. Why go 4K? Because you can, or question mark? A few reasons. The main reason is for the new courses as I work on them. I think a lot of them kind of benefit from 4K capture at least. Especially if you're doing screencasts, it feels like when you have 4K, a lot of people when they're doing a course at a computer, they have a relatively high resolution display, 4K often, UHD. And so doing a screen capture type of course format, that makes it a little easier. Even on the, HD is probably good enough for most like product demonstrations, but once you get on the screen, I feel like it helps a little bit there. And that's the same that will also translate over into our live stream. So we'll go through this in the live sound for video session tomorrow, but we'll do a full tour of the setup here. We also have a hyperdeck in there that'll do the recording. So that's kind of the main idea, Roland. fair question. All right. Baron says, I've got everything in line to stream multicam and 4K except for the capture device. Got to wait for the A10 Mini 4K, I guess. The higher end of stuff is out of my range. Yeah, this is super expensive and super complex. And you can see we were kind of a hot mess getting started here tonight because we're just in the process of getting set up. I had spent about an hour before dinner trying to get it sorted out and set up. And the encoder was giving me grief. So we have that sorted out now, I believe. So fortunately, that will hopefully help things go a little smoother. But we have a lot of things to work out. So for example, let's switch over to the mobile cam again. Okay. So we've got these cross converter scalers. I've got 5 of them actually. And having them kind of strung out all over the room is not a viable solution. So they're probably going to be mounted on a board with a power supply so they can all be powered. And that will kind of become our I/O board before going into the switcher. So that's another thing, that when you move up to one of these big switchers like this, the majority of the inputs are SDI, and a lot of cameras, certainly in the even less than $4,000 range, just have HDMI outputs. So you have to use a cross converter to get into the switcher in the first place. And then, if you're sharing a computer screen plus you're running cameras, so for example, the Canon C200, which we're running as our main camera tonight, is outputting at 29.97 frames per second. And so we're matching everything to that. But the output from the computers is 30 hertz. So we have to convert that to 29.97. So that's another thing that these little boxes do here. This is the Decimator makes this one. It's an Australian company, and it's called the 12G Cross. So it has an HDMI 2.0 input, an HDMI 2.0 output, a 12G, 6G, 3G SDI input, 4 SDI outputs, and then a gen lock as well. So what you can do here is it's got a great scaler in it, and it can convert time, it can convert frame rates, and it can also convert resolution. So that's what we're seeing here tonight. Okay, let's go ahead and switch back. All right, back to main cam. All right. So we've got, that's got to be cleaned up. We can't have this nightmare of those things all over the place. So there are things to do on that front as well.
Does 4K improve audio? That's an interesting question.
Oh, Brian says, does 4K improve audio? No, I don't think it does. I think that, so for example, on the encoder, we could set the audio, we're using it, it's going to H.264 in terms of its streaming format, and you can set the AAC bitrate, and we set it to 320 for our live stream. We've got the bandwidth to support it. The idea is that we want to keep the audio quality as high as possible. But I don't think that 4K in H.264, I don't think the resolution of the stream that you're sending has any sort of relation to the audio itself. So for example, I think, I don't want to really mess anything up there, do I? I was going to go into the settings for the encoder and check to see what the different settings were for AAC. I think it can go even higher than 320 kbps. But yeah, it's definitely compressed audio, but it's pretty high quality. So, and I don't think the resolution of the camera has anything to do with it. All right, Baron says, I'm currently trying to run 2 Camlink 4K cards through my MacBook Pro, but that is pushing things on so many levels. I'm actually super impressed with those things. So that's what we actually streamed the last 2 weeks with, and before we fired up the encoder, we were using a Camlink 4K. So the HDMI output on the ATEM came into this. That was routed into the computer, the Mac here, and then we were streaming that out via Ecamm Live. So these are what, $130, and they're pretty darn amazing. Like I felt like the quality was pretty good. I was pretty impressed. Roland asks, so the next question is when 4K wireless will be viable. Yeah, so Greg Greg looked up, there is a Teradek that's available, 4K Teradek Bolt, which runs $2,500. I don't think, for my purposes right now, I don't see the value of spending that money, but maybe Hollyland will have something here before too much longer too. The only thing about Hollyland wireless systems that I don't appreciate is they mess with your frame rates. So they have their own converter in here. So when the camera is feeding 29.97, they convert it to 30. And then that's part of the reason that we have to have the 12G crosses, is so that we can convert that back to 29.97. Everything has to be at the same frame rate and the same resolution coming into the switcher, or else it's not recognized. So that's a pretty important thing there too. Yeah, the question, I would love to see something from Hollyland in the sub $1,000 range. I think that would be pretty interesting. That'd be helpful. Then at least we wouldn't be, and it would be nice if they would also support there's a whole debate that one could have about fractional frame rates. Those were really designed a long time ago to support color television, really, is my understanding. And why we still run these fractional frame rates is kind of silly. I mean, everything should be the integer frame rates, but the reality is it's not. So, and we have to get things matched. And the ATEM switcher is a perfect example of that. And in fact, the ATEM Mini Pro is doing that behind the scenes. The ATEM Mini Pro has frame rate converters and scalers built into it. So it's taking care of that kind of behind the scenes, basically. So there's that. DN says, I'm seriously thinking about getting one of the MixPre 2 series, but should I get a Rode NTG3 or NTG5 first before I spend money on the MixPre 2? Only have a Zoom H5 and Deity VMic Pro at the moment. Well, I will say this. I think microphones are a better investment long-term. So I guess I'd probably buy that first. I think your H5 will support either of those microphones. They have pretty good hot output signals. And I think you're going to see the biggest difference in terms of audio quality by going with one of those microphones, probably. So that's what I would do, Dion. Baron says those 4K cam links are great, but 2 of them is more than my compute can handle. The computer, I assume you mean. A shame because I've got fiber, so otherwise could make it happen. Yeah. Are you on a laptop, Roland? I think you said it was a MacBook Pro. Yeah, oof. Maybe the Apple Silicon MacBooks will do better, but man, it's a lot of work. Streaming on a laptop is a lot of work. Usually it kicks the fan in pretty hard. Roland says, my guess is that the next-gen Blackmagic design high-end switchers will do auto mixing of varying frame rates as the ATEM Mini Pro does today. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll have the inbuilt scalers and frame rate converters. I agree. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Greg says, I do worry that the 4K wireless video is going to soak up a lot of the Wi-Fi frequencies. Not sure how much of a challenge it will be to get the bandwidth in many environments. Yeah, that's a good point. If you're using, especially most of the wireless transmission systems, the video transmission systems that I've used at least, are all 5 gigahertz. So that's one of the frequency bands that Wi-Fi is using. And yeah. All right. Baron's talking a little bit about the Camlink too. I think one of the combination of USB bus and GPU limitations, but I'm still troubleshooting it. Yeah, could be GPU, could be USB bus. True. Once you get a 4K stream, although I assume these are USB at least 3. I'm not sure if they're 3.1. I don't know if it says on here. Yeah, it doesn't really say. Yeah, I'm not sure on the specs on that. If it's, I would think that it's well, I don't know. Probably USB 3.0 is probably what it is. Laurent Cooper, Always enjoy your live sessions, man. Thanks. This is a really informal one. I hope I'm glad it's enjoyable, and thanks for coming by. Very much appreciate that. Dolly Yamas T says hello from San Antonio. We were just talking about San Antonio earlier today.
We were.
Yep. Emma plays with the Marching Utes, the University of Utah marching band, and so they had their bowl game down there last year, about a year ago now, right?
Yeah, it was a very humiliating
It was a
football game.
it was a humiliating football game, but the band had a good time, right?
We did.
Yeah.
We enjoyed the city of San Antonio. The river walk was a lot of fun.
Yeah, she enjoyed the river walk. So, so Dolly Yamas T says I purchased the DBX 286 stereo two-way mono four-way crossover with mic XLR connectors to help with the quality of my audio. Good job. I hope that's working out well for you. That's a cool little unit. I mean, it's amazing what they pack into. I mean, just the single channel version, even at $220, I think it is. Pretty good there. So, all right, Baron again. Got my fingers crossed for an early 2021 Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro, and that it will solve all my problems. That would be nice. I am looking forward to the bigger MacBook Pros with the Apple Silicon in them. I think for me, if we can talk about computers for a moment, which we can because it's not a sound for video session. All the tech reviewers are kind of going gaga, whoa, the new MacBook Pros and the MacBook Airs and blah, 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 and amazing performance. And yeah, no doubt, looks really, really promising. But to me, the problem I have with them is that just not enough input-output ports, or not enough USB ports for what I do. So I'm hoping that their next generation, like their M2, will have at least 2 USB buses at least, and I'm assuming that right now it's just one, but maybe it's 2 now, and maybe it needs to be 4. I don't know, but waiting for something that's A, bigger. I need a bigger screen, and B, has more USB ports, so more Thunderbolt 4, I guess it is. All right, Alan. Hello, Alan. It's good to hear from you. Marvel Studios shoots in true 24 frames per second for all films to get rid of fractional frame rates. The VFX department said the math is so much cleaner and faster, and as you said, there's reason to use, I think maybe we lost, old style TV frame rates. Yeah, agreed. It's just kind of silly at this point. I don't know why we still have them. The Canon supports true 24, this C200. I don't know if you have to change the frequency rate of the camera, and it kind of does this reboot thing. Let's see if the C70 supports true 30. That'll be just kind of an interesting thing to look at. So right now the system frequency is at 59.94. Whoops, what happened? Okay, 59.94. You can change it to, if I go 50 hertz or 24 hertz, no, I don't think it's going to support true 30. It'll support true 24, but not true 30. And the reason that 30 is important to me now is with live streaming YouTube. If you stream 24, it converts it on the fly to 30, and it looks pretty bad. It looks kind of, I was actually streaming early on, probably about a year ago or more, in 24 or 23.976, and it was always converting, and it didn't look great. So anyway, all right, Roland, can you comment on the differences between the Sennheiser 8050 and the Audio-Technica 4053B in terms of sound quality and pickup pattern? Off-axis HVAC rejection is key for me. I don't know if I've because I've gone to A10 Mini Pro ISO for video and Art voice channel strip for audio, the computer specs are less important to me. Is that the same? That's a kind of a different, that's a follow-on, I think. I don't know that it's been a while since I put those side by side, but my recollection is that I think the Audio-Technica's polar pattern is a little bit more focused than the 8050, but I felt like the 8050 sounded a little bit more natural off-axis than the 4053B. So there's a lot of kind of personal philosophy questions to ask oneself. But if you're looking for pure off-axis rejection, I'm pretty sure that the Audio-Technica is probably it's going to get you more rejection Although I don't know. I mean, if you look at the polar graph for hypercardioid versus supercardioid, hypercardioid has a longer tail on the rear lobe, a lobe on the rear. So it's narrower and longer versus supercardioid, which is shorter but rounder. So it's kind of a trade-off. I think if you want really good rear rejection, cardioid is probably best. And if you can keep the mic up pretty close, something like this, then that'll probably serve you pretty well. All right, we got to wrap up probably in about 8 minutes. How's that? Okay. Let's see. Thomas says, I was highly skeptical of what Apple Silicon would be able to do, but so far it looks great. I hope they can scale things up to more cores, more RAM, and more bus connections. Agreed. Although in a laptop, 16 gigabytes is probably enough for most of what I need to do on a laptop. And what's interesting it may be different on Windows, I don't know, but on Mac, like Final Cut Pro doesn't use a ton of memory. Even when you're using, UHD footage, it seems pretty memory efficient. It really seems to, my experience has been that the processing capability is pretty, that and a GPU capability are pretty important. So I would actually, in terms of what they've done with the M1, I'd be fine with it as long if it had more USB Thunderbolt 4 ports. So, but yeah, it looks really promising regardless. All right. Oh, then Los Lakers en Español says, try the Mac Mini with the M1 chip. It has 2 USB and 2 Thunderbolt 4. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but I think I really need more of the laptop format, just for something so that I can take things on set when I need to do that. Sometimes I need to pull that out, for better or worse. Roland says, thanks so much. I do have the MixPre 6 II with noise assist, so maybe I can get away with the 8050. Mic has to be off camera. Yeah, definitely off camera. And yeah, be careful with that noise assist. I was talking, Alan and I were kind of chatting via email on that. Be kind of careful with it. Live, you can probably get away with 2 or 3 dB. Once you get beyond that, it's in my experience, unless you're close mic'd, you have to be pretty close mic'd for that to work its best. It does start kind of affecting or coloring the quality of the dialogue. So. Brian says, seems like YouTube renders video and audio badly. Any web page that can be more up to par. Well, Vimeo, in theory, I've always been frustrated with Vimeo, though. Vimeo I believe it can show 10-bit footage on Vimeo, but even with a very fast internet connection, I find it buffers a lot. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I have a bad attitude. It's bad karma coming back to visit me. But I've never loved Vimeo. I've always had kind of a rocky relationship with Vimeo. I do actually, incidentally, not for the Kurdish Jud audio channel, but for the main channel. Those do get posted on library.tv, so lbry.tv. That's one place you can watch them without watching ads, for now at least. And quality-wise, it seems okay. So I don't know if that will change the experience you have, Brian, in terms of YouTube there. Talking Audio was watching your videos. This is from Osprey Media on mics for indoor dialogue on a boom. You said you were using an AT4053. I happen to have 2 AT4041s. They're cardioid. Would you recommend? Have you tried them? I have not tried them, but yeah, I think they can definitely work for indoor dialogue. The thing with cardioid is especially small diaphragm cardioid microphones. I think the roll-off for the microphone designers, at least, it's generally easier to get a more natural roll-off with a small diaphragm versus a large diaphragm condenser microphone. So I'd by all means, I'd give them a try, see where we end up with them. All right, we got to hurry because we're wrapping up here. Show G Productions. I've seen reports of audio sync drifting problem over time, 1 to 2 hours with the A10 Mini. Are these reports true? I have heard those as well. I have never experienced it. However, we generally only stream for about an hour at a time.
Any more than that, and you get very tired.
Yeah, any more than that, and Emma is talking about forming a union. And so I usually back down and say, okay, we're only doing an hour. But this is an exception.
I actually start misspeaking.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After more than an hour.
More than an hour is rough on the talent, too. So I don't know. I've heard a lot of people complain, not a lot. I've heard some people complain about that. So I have to think it's true. And I don't know what their exact configuration is. But I have heard some people doing that. The way I approach the A10 Mini is I generally don't run audio into the audio inputs except for intro, outro music from a phone. Everything else I route through my camera. Just works for me. I've never run into any sync problems doing that. Now, if you run it into the A10 Mini via its microphone or audio inputs, line mic inputs, that's where I think the sync issues occur. Not positive, but that may be part of the reason we haven't run into that issue. All right. Roland says, thanks for inviting us to your live stream. Great job getting it all working and looking forward to the real session tomorrow. Thank you. Looking forward to that too, Roland. Thanks for that. What new courses do you have planned? We are working on a wireless microphone course with our friend Michael Wynn. Hopefully, the problem is that he was unemployed when we started working on that. Not unemployed, but he didn't have any jobs lined up. He's a freelancer. But darn it, now he's got a bunch of jobs. And so we're hoping that over the holiday break here, he'll have some time to start working on that. And we're going to do the post-production on that for the most part. But that's the first course that we have in the queue. I have a couple of others I was working with on the lighting course, and they seem to have fallen off the face of the planet Earth. So I'm a little disappointed there. We're going to see if we can resurrect that one as well, but we'll see where we get on that. Baron says, I run a mandolin education channel with weekly lessons and live streams and then spend the rest of the time learning how to improve the audio and video side of things from other YouTubers. Thanks. Well, thank you, Baron. And that's pretty cool. I'm supposed to be practicing my ukulele at least 10 minutes a day, but I haven't been. I also have drums that I haven't played in probably a couple of years.
We should do something with those.
Yeah, I don't know what. It's time is the issue. Yeah. So anyway. All right, folks, we need to wrap things up for today. Here's one last question here from Los Lakers en Español, NBA en Español. Do you recommend the ERA plugins from Acusonus? Yes, I've used them, and yeah, they're pretty good. I've been happy with them, and they're reasonably priced. It's I'd say it's kind of a toss-up between that and RX. I think Isotope RX. Isotope RX is probably much more ubiquitous out in the industry. They're very good as well. So anyway, that'll probably do it for us for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you all tomorrow if you're able to join. If not, get out there and make some great sound, and we'll talk to you when we talk to you. Take care, everybody. We. Oh man. Bye.